This October, the wrong station celebrates a decade of dread. You can read the show notes to discover terrible new ways to celebrate with us.
Well. After nearly 100 episodes, 3 Halloween specials without my regal bearing, they've come crawling back to me. After Season 6, Episode 69, I thought we had a real good thing going. But Season 7, they called me. Oh, Kaiser, we're doing something different this year. A journey through time and space. I am reduced to a cameo appearance, sharing the soundscape with that wretched little Peter Lorre. Season 8, 31 episodes they do that year, yet somehow they simply do not have the space to slot me in. Me! The Halloween Kaiser, if you haven't caught on by this point. The big old pumpkin papa himself. Season 9. They're ficking with me at this point. This business about eggs and cheese ad nauseum. All the while I watch, all the while I listen, seeing the ratings go down, hearing the people clamor for what they really want, blowing up my inbox. But it's no waxy skin off my nose. It's a busy time of year for me, too. The media appearances alone. How I long for the tiefer schlaf. Oh, I have, of course, not slept in many years. And my waking thoughts during these crisp autumn months often dwell on the past, the many roads I could have taken. But yeah, this year, this monumental year, the Youngs have come to their senses. A fine, traditional Snips episode, hosted by me, that most traditional and authentic figurehead of the holiday. And don't let anyone tell you anything different. And if they still do, let me know, and I'll gobble them up. Oh, just shoot them. But let's get the ball rolling, shall we? We've seen a lot of produce this month. Ghost apples, cemetery pears, a horrid little gift basket to bring your neighbors. And now, completing this trifecta, we take you to golden fields and bring you sweet little kernels of greed and desire. We bring you Corn Maid.
This was a defining moment of his life. When he was 7 or 8 and still living on the farm, his grandmother called him in to sit on the carpet while she went through old photos her mother had taken. "Here's your Uncle Lyle. He died in a farming accident. Handsome man, isn't he? Oh, and this was... what was her name? June, I think. I always knew her as a sweet old lady. But she had a reputation when she was younger. Look at that gleam in her eyes." All this faded into a murmur in the background, because a glossy black-and-white photo had fallen out onto the woven rug. At first glance, it looked to be a picture of a slim young woman in a pure white dress. But then, your eye began to parse the image and make sense of it, and you realized there were no hands or wrists coming out of the sleeves of her dress, but sheaves of black and white grain, and that what seemed to be a young woman's head, all crowned with flowers, was in fact a great plume of wheat bursting forth from the empty collar of the dress. He held the picture in fingers that had gone cold and clammy. 30 years later, he would be trying to fall asleep, and this image would suddenly appear in his mind's eye. "Oh, that?" His grandma took the picture. "Oh, that's just the Corn Maid. They used to make one every year." In a small voice, he asked her, "Why?" She smiled and shook her head. "Oh, I'm not sure. Tradition, I guess. They used to say that the soul of the corn needed some place to go when they cut the last neck down." That thought only made things worse. Each day he walked to the bus, and the wheat towered on either side, and it was dark underneath, and it rustled with the autumn wind. The thought that it was alive like him, and souled like him, that it had thoughts and ambitions of its own, filled him with a shapeless dread, so that he began to walk more quickly, and then more quickly, until he was running flat out, heart pounding, with the wind ripping through the grain on either side, and the footsteps of the corn maid rushing after him, and he didn't stop until he came to the flat, controlled safety of the road, the battered plastic of the bus shelter, where he cowered until the school bus came roaring up. Each day, as he boarded, he forced himself not to glance back out the windows behind him, because he knew the corn maid would be there, watching from the edges of the field. Once, a girl from the special needs class in the year below him smiled as he sat and stared down at the central aisle, trying not to glance out the windows. "You don't need to feel bad," she said. Her face was wide and bright and plain and open. "It's Thanksgiving." And she handed him a corn-husk doll. One year, when he was a teenager, they had a corn maid at the country fair, and he spent a long time staring at her with the country music dim in his ears. She was nothing, just some old clothes stuffed with straw, loose grain hanging out from the sleeves and sloped neck of her shirt. It almost made him sad. "What's the matter, man?" One of his friends appeared out of nowhere and threw an arm around his shoulder. "You want to fuck the corn maid?" "Shut the fuck up, man." But that night, he dreamed about it. The sweet smell of grain as he curled his fingers in the damp autumn soil, the white skirts rucked up beneath them, and the rustling of wind in the wheat like a woman's sighs. When his parents died, the property came into his hands, and he drove back out to settle their affairs, piloting his heavy SUV down the long drive toward the old farmhouse. The fields on either side were fallow, overgrown with wild yellow grass. It was autumn again, and the skies were heavy, and in the fields he'd driven past, the grain was harvested already. In truth, he'd put off this trip for several weeks so that he could come when the grain was hewn already. Even now, he was a man who liked to live indoors, and who found the rustle of wind in the knee-high grass of Hyde Park enough to set his skin crawling. His wheels ground through the gravel of the front drive, and he didn't look behind him as he unlocked the front door. He turned on the lights. This old house, the old floral wallpaper, and the oaken banister, and the crocheted doilies hanging in the stairwell. His parents had done nothing with the place after his grandma had died. They'd left it all for him. All this history, all this weight of the past. They thought it was a gift, an inheritance worth passing on. It was anything but. He wandered through, flicking on lights, scanning bookshelves for anything of interest, making himself an instant coffee in the kitchen. Those black and white photographs still framed on the kitchen wall. Who were these people with his face? He wanted nothing to do with them. He found an old drawer full of his grandmother's cornhusk dolls, and took them out back to the burn barrel and poured in lighter fluid and set them up. He came back with old papers, old taxes, old who gives a shit, and set them burning too. When he drove away that evening, he felt free, cut loose from the superstitious past, from this land that still filled him with an uneasy sense of its gaze, its slow, alien thought. He tapped the blue touchscreen of his dashboard, and the car made a call for him. The man on the other end knew him by name, and greeted him with that friendly detachment people use in business. "Hey, how's it going?" "Oh, pretty good. Just back up at the old place. Driving back down to the city." "Oh, yeah? How are things looking up there?" He glanced out the window. Shorn fields watched him go under darkling skies. "Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good." There was a moment's pause. Then the man on the other end got down to business. "So, you given any more thought to that deal we were talking about?" "Yeah." Then, after a heartbeat, "Yeah, let's pull the trigger on it. Let's make some money. Let's build." Development moved quick in that part of the world. It was a well-oiled machine. One winter for the sale to go through, and by summer everything was bulldozed flat. It took them another year, just 1 year, to pave and put up frames and run the plumbing and put in street lights. By the year after that, there were people living there, and by the end of summer the development was nearly full. He drove down that fall with his associate, and under dark skies and sudden passing rain, they turned down the slick new tarmac and cruised slowly through the new neighborhood, past the garages and new EVs and big beige houses with their dark windows. He was awestruck. Something in the mind rebelled at the thought that all these $1 million homes had been dark stands of wheat 900 days before. "Here." His associate parked in front of a house. This one's still empty. They went inside, and hard white fluorescence drove away the dimness of autumn. They walked through together, and he marveled at the clean, new, open-concept walls and dark hardwood floors, wondering why he felt so strange. Then, when they came to the living room, he realized this was the place. Right here, right where he stood, was where his childhood living room had been. He looked out now, and beyond the fence, his subdivision spread where fields of grain had once murmured to one another. It was so hard to wrap your head around that you had to laugh. He looked down, shaking his head. His associate put an arm around his shoulders. "That's right, buddy," his associate said. "Everything the light touches." Then he stopped laughing. He crouched down and picked at a small, dark edge sticking up between the floorboards. It was a piece of glossy paper. He picked at it with his fingernails. From somewhere outside, the dim sound of music came to him, and it sounded like there was a live band of some sort playing, with drums and flutes and other oddly dated instruments. His associate frowned and went to the window. "What's going on out there?" he asked, picking at that dark piece of paper on the floor. "I'm not quite sure," said the associate. The music was getting louder now. He glanced up at the window, but couldn't see anything. Then glanced back down at the piece of paper he was trying to work free from between the floorboards. It came loose. He pulled it free. His heart almost stopped. It was a glossy, old photograph. A figure in a white dress. And then his associate said, "Oh my God." A moment later, the window broke, and all was the sound of wild music and stamping feet, and the air was a whirl with broken glass and shattered stalks of grain.
"Oh, wunderbar! What a delicious comeuppance! And especially intriguing was that dream sequence with the Im High Waltzen with the corn maid. How curious. When I look at the document, that section is highlighted, and there's a note. You asked for it, Jacob." "Well, they certainly have a collaborative spirit, those boys. Let's not dwell, though. There are still so many treats to be had. So many tricks. For the young, certainly. And I do somewhat take umbrage with this next story's premise, that one can be too old to trick or treat."
13 is too old to trick or treat. Like, last year we were 12, and that was borderline. 13? There's no fucking way. Mara had sent all that as a voice note while she was walking her dog, Tucker. Lily could hear him, panting and whining in the background. "Okay, sure, but we're too young for parties," Lily texted back. "So what the fuck?" She deleted the F word. So what are we supposed to do instead? Mara took a second to get back to her. I don't know, she said. Give candy to kids, I guess. Okay, Lily, have a good time. Only one piece of candy per kid, or you'll run out. We'll be back soon, said Lily's dad. Ready to trick-or-treat, kiddo? And then Grandma's house after? Yes, said Dylan. That was her baby brother. He was wearing an Iron Man costume that had fake muscles underneath, which was weird because Iron Man's whole thing was that he didn't have bulgy muscles. He had iron. But Lily's brother didn't care about stuff like that. Also, he was obviously picking his nose behind the mask. Lily's dad opened the door and ushered him outside. Save me some candy, Dill, said Lily. She closed the door behind them, but not before she heard Dylan yell, No way! In response. And then it was just her in the house. Alone. Well, not entirely alone. Her phone buzzed. It was Mara. My parents just left for some party or something. I'm going to stream a scary movie. You in? Sure, Lily texted back. But we pause every time there's a trick-or-treater at the door. I don't want you getting ahead of me. Mara agreed. Lily jumped over the back of the couch and turned on the TV. They settled on an older movie from the 2000s and pressed play. It had vampires in cheesy leather outfits, which was pretty fun. For the first 40 minutes or so, they had to keep texting each other to pause and play while a steady stream of kids came to the door. Lily and Mara lived in an amazing trick-or-treat neighborhood. There were 3 schools nearby, and all the houses were close together. The road was narrow with a low speed limit, and the sidewalk was wide enough that you could walk side by side with your kid as they went from house to house. Everyone was out tonight. Ghosts, haunted dolls, superheroes, animals, axe murderers, and some pretty elaborate cosplay. They all came to the door with bags and buckets open. Lily found that she liked handing out candy. It made her feel adult, and the really little kids in the ladybug and pumpkin costumes were super cute. Plus, she discovered the illicit joy of eating the candy that was meant for the kids. It took the sting away from not being out there in a costume herself. As the sun finally set and the sky got dark, the flow of kids started to trickle. Mostly older kids now, ones who weren't too much younger than Lily. She gave those kids extra candy. She knew the pain of doing your last trick-or-treat and wanted to do what she could to take the sting out of it. Finally, Lily handed out the last piece of candy in the bowl, turned off the lights outside, and locked the door. The interruptions were over. Mara and her were able to sit back and enjoy the movie on their respective couches. Now that she wasn't getting up every few seconds, the movie was actually kind of scary. Vampires in leather's scary, but that's still pretty scary if you're home alone. Lily got up to turn on a few lights, then came back to the couch, hugging a pillow to her chest. And just as she got comfortable, there came a loud, rapid knock on the door. Knock, 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 knock. Lily nearly jumped off the sofa. She whipped her head around, looking at the door. Then, at the corner of her eye, she saw something framed in the front window. A face pressed against the glass. Someone was looking in at her. She squealed. The face disappeared, and the knocking came again. Knock, 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 knock. Knock, 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 knock. Then the face returned to the window. This time, it wasn't as scary. The face was kind of messed up, but it was because it was one of those new rubber masks, the detailed ones. It was an old man's face, with the eyes and mouth open wide, the mouth in a big frown. There were no eyeballs or throat, just blackness, like there was black felt under the mask. The kid behind the mask looked around the room and spotted Lily on the couch. They knocked on the window frame. Knock, 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 knock. Lily noticed this time that the knock had a kind of rhythm to it, like a dance. Lily waved the kid away. We're out of candy, she said. Knock, 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 knock. Out! Do you hear me? No more candy, kid. The old man face stayed in the window for a moment longer, then faded into the blackness outside. Lily turned back to the movie and texting with Mara. Just as the movie was about to reach its climax, Mara sent her a text. Pause. Last kid of the night. Lily groaned and paused. Then, a second later, she heard the key in the door. Her dad and Dylan came in, Dylan dragging a bag of candy almost as big as he was. Lily popped up and grabbed one handle to help carry the bag into the living room. Her dad went to make them both warm apple cider, while she assisted Dylan in sorting the candy by color, and then by which ones he liked most. When they were done, Lily took a picture of the pile and sent it to Mara with the caption, "Sorry, I got sidetracked. Had to help this wiener with his candy." The movie stayed paused on the TV until her dad noticed and turned it off. Later that night, Lily got up to grab a glass of water from the pitcher in the fridge. She checked her phone. Mara had never texted her back. As she poured, she idly looked out through the kitchen window into the backyard. There were no stars in the city, but a sliver of the moon was out there, providing a meager light, just enough to see the outline of the big mulberry tree back there. Her dad hadn't raked the last of the yard just yet, which is why, at first, Lily thought the crunching sound was just the leaves blowing around. But no, the crunching wasn't the wind. It couldn't be. It wasn't crunch, crunch. It sounded like crunch, 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 crunch. Lily peered out the back window. There was movement out there. A skunk or a feral cat rummaging around. Crunch, 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 crunch. Crunch, 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 crunch. She peered closer. No, it was too rhythmic. And the movement she could make out was big. Bigger than an animal. Crunch, 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 crunch. Crunch, 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 crunch. She turned on the backyard light. Long limbs and a black body danced around her backyard, knees lifted high, jumping and twirling and spinning. It trotted from one side of the yard to the other, crazed and ecstatic, holding something in its arms the way a waltzer holds his dance partner. A graceful pirouette here, a powerful leap there. And then suddenly, the figure spun to a halt mid-step. Its head snapped up to stare at Lily through the kitchen window. She saw the old man face with his empty black eyes and empty black mouth. Except now, the mouth was smiling. And in his arms, his dancing partner hung limp and loose, like a rag doll. The old man dipped her low to the ground, and Mara's body bent over backwards, so her head dangled almost to the leaves. Her eyes and mouth were hollow and black, but her face smiled too. Lily mashed her hand on the light switch. The backyard disappeared into darkness. Crunch, 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 crunch. Crunch, 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 crunch. Knock, 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 knock. Knock, 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 knock.
What fun! What fun! The candy, the dancing, the ringing, the snapping. It makes me maudlin. It makes me think of my childhood. Do I dare? Do I indulge? Well, why else are we here? There was a third story here, but we're tossing it. Sorry, Herr Botelho, your sordid tale about bugs or bad feelings or whatever will have to wait. It's time for a little fireside chat with the Kaiser. Now, where do I begin? I'm a man, like any other man. I believe in the transformational power of love, and in the far greater smothering power of regret. Regret is a curious thing. It rarely goes so far as to control us, but it does so very often define us. I did not want this. The crown, the responsibility. I did not feel it was my vocation. Much rather would I have pursued architecture, creating places of worship, be that cathedrals or towers devoted to the divine, or concert halls where one might approach the secular sublime of Liszt's Faust or Sarasate's Gunnerweisen. But such was not my lot. It is, after all, a hereditary title, and my father was inexorable in his expectation and in his decay. He would allow no path for escape. The change came shortly after his death, our family's curse passing from his blood to mine. He was not yet rotting when my flesh swelled with water and became hard. My limbs lengthened into gangly things. It would take years to recover the grace of my youth. My fair skin became jaundiced and took on a sheen. My teeth sharpened. My eyes began to cast an inextinguishable light, one with the glow of the moon, the other with the fires of the spirit realm. And it was good that he was not yet stinking, for I ate greedily of his body, allowed his juices and pulp to run down my bare chest. That's not part of the ritual, by the way, just a real impulse choice. I decided then that I would be the last. No child of mine, and I have so many, would give up their dreams of being little Halloween doctors, or Halloween teachers, or Halloween marine biologists. No child of mine would feast upon my succulent flesh, unless it's just for a little innocent taste. I keep my body strong and eternal with magics, tinctures, and Monday night jazz tap. I keep my mind sharp by reading terrible little horror stories charged with sexual subtext. And look what has come about in the last 160 years. Look at Halloween now, under my watchful gaze. It has consumed the world as only a son can consume his water. The candy? That was me! Sexy costumes? Oh, you know that was me! You wrong station boys, too. You owe me a big one. But let's not make this about me. It's your show, after all. Your happy anniversary. A decade of dread. I suppose that is something worthy of praise. Thank you for the stories, gentlemen, and for letting me ramble on. Und vielen Dank an diese Hörde. Happy Halloween, childrens. Und remember, have fun.
The Wrong Station is made possible with the generous support of our listeners on Patreon. Join us today at patreon.com/thewrongstation for bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes content, ad-free listening, and additional goodies celebrating our decade of dread. The Wrong Station is co-produced by Alexander Saxton, Anthony Botelho, and Jacob Duarte Spiel, with music composed and performed by Alon Citrin, and arranged for the viola and performed by Viola Schmidt. You can follow us on social media at The Wrong Station, or email us at thewrongstation@gmail.com. And until next time, thank you for listening.